Hello everybody, Pernago is here to bring upon thee some more Cosmonarchy. Hippity Hoppity versus Godwheat. We've been checking out some of the new guys who have just popped in after a little brief window here, and while Hippity's been playing since, I believe, mid-June, and Goosey, who's the other new player that we've been watching participate and partake, is a bit newer than that. We are having a good time seeing what the new guys are up to. So I wanted to take this opportunity to showcase not just Hippity Hoppity as a new Zerg player, but also the Escozy, of course, the latest race to be added to Cosmonarchy. We have not proceeded with any balance adjustments or new changes to any of the races, including Escozy, beyond, improving their audio visuals here and there, because of the fact that there's an active 1v1 tournament going on, Acropolis number 4. But hey, Hippity Hoppity, and to an extent Goosey, could very well end up making Acropolis 5. So this could be a neat little way to get everybody familiar with them ahead of time. If you like the 1v1 space, you want to help support it, you can donate money towards the ongoing Acropolis prize pool and any future events like weekend wages and stuff, which are our bi-weekly tournaments that we're going to get back into following Acropolis number 4's conclusion, by heading over to streamlabs.com/Pernago. And if you want to just support product development in general, you can go to the coffee link that's listed in the bottom right. It's ko-fi.com/Cosmonarchy. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate y'all. So we'll introduce our players a little bit more. Of course, we already talked a little bit about Hippity Hoppity, who is, of course, the Magma Zerg. And he's going for a neat little play where he's going Larvosk, double Larvosk, into Pool. So this is a bit of a greed move. And Godwheat's not in a great position to punish this immediately. He's going for a very middle-of-the-road sort of Radix, Landlock Radix build. Down here in the bottom right is the Cosmic Cobalt, a Escozy player. It's still really cool that we have that 4th race in the game. You guys are going to like the fact that there's a 5th race coming as well. Blood Summon, that's the name. They're basically, you're going to really enjoy the way that I design demons. That's what I can tell you about the Blood Summon. And yeah, that's going to come by. The Tier 1 is meant to drop in the month of December of this year. So, it's mirroring the way that Escozy were developed, where their Tier 1 gets cemented in, and then, so they'll have about 12 combat units or something like that, plus their worker and all that. That's what you can expect going forward. Now, the Rilla Rokors here do time out off of the K-Grip, but their energy bar refills when they step back onto it, and so the missionary was trying to lure them out, but Godwheat unsuccessful in doing that. And now Hippity's got a very nice amount of larvae. This is a well-considered build, and clearly shows some frequency with the game. And he uses the Rills to slow down that attack speed, slow down that, or reduce that armor count, not that it's relevant to the Escozy units now. And he's hopeful that he'll be able to charge forward with those Zeths and see what he can make happen. A Proselyte was made, but it's not actually using its jump, so it goes down for basically free, and so too do the missionaries here. Another one just walking across the map. Godwheat, uh-oh, are you getting Zeth Rush, dude? Is this going to be an anticlimax, and I got to go and find another replay to cast as a package deal? I don't think they played more than one game anytime recently, but I'll see what I can find. Gauntlet coming, double Radix, of course, is now operational, and I like that he cancels the land lockout here. Only one Zeth moving forward. Hippity's already done a lot in this situation. He's just confirming that his opponent is crossbound. Looks like he's maybe a little bit... I don't know. Those Zeths look like they were moving over to the bottom left, top right. But the Vornoth is already done. This is a really nice, it's impressive in the sense that Hippity's still a new player, but it's very much a standard build. And to see a newer player already grok the basics of the game like this, the fundamentals, I should say, as opposed to basics, because that sounds a little bit worse. Yeah, it's just really cool. So it looks like we are going to get to a down and dirty game. We have a landlock starting, the grandstand on the high ground. The Vorvs can be a really big threat here. Several Cardinals, actually. That's going to be a sleeper hit. The Cardinals are very good at dealing with melee, but look at that. Godwheat already canceling out the landlock, thinking that was the committal. He's getting a little nervous. Did he know I was going to cast this game? Is that why he's choking, through time? Gauntlet on the way. It's almost done. It does take its sweet time in completing. I am going to be working on some more audio visuals, and that will include things like the Gauntlet having a more green color scheme to it, but also having it have an almost built frame. I added one for the Radix and the Landlock, and I think those are really important to throw together. So I'm going to make sure to do that. I guess the Grandstand was also one that was added somewhat recently, within the last couple months or whatever. So yeah, you definitely need to have those frames that, like the Terran structures, when they get pretty close to completion. Vornath Pond now upgrading into the lake before the hatch is even done for the natural. So this is a very aggressive build, committed on the economic side. Vicars are on the way. And definitely what you can do against those is just go Lyrilisc, right? You can kind of just try to be fraggy against them, be outmuscle them. And, you know, the Lyrilisc is more expensive, but in a good number, it does go to exactly what you need. Against something like a Vicar. Zeth's Vorv's coming out in a pretty big number. Hippity was... I guess you could say it was a surprise that he was successful against Grass Eater. ZVZ obviously can be an interesting and eclectic matchup, but man, this is so dangerous. I can't believe Godwheat's actually muscling out across the map right now. He's got only 2 Vicars. Let's keep them selected here. Cardinals are going to try their best to keep things going in his favor. As long as he micros well against a non-surround Zerg, he will be favored. His composition is such that he's got the frontline healing from the Cardinal. Every time the Cardinal attacks, it's going to heal around itself. Sort of like a melee Ecclesiast, I guess you could think of, but obviously healing health instead of shields. Bunch of workers coming on down as the army is more than enough to dissuade a full-throated move-out. But the Cypher is coming, and Dyads are on the way as well to help power build those tech nodes. With the Gauntlet complete and the Cypher in the cards, we are going to see access to Mimics for detection. And furthermore, we're going to see access to a bunch of the Tier 2 units that Godwheat no doubt wants to assemble. You know, Aphorists have been a staple of the Tier 2 hideaway. And you also got to think about things like eventually getting up to Tier 3. Of course, could happen here, and has happened in many Escozy games lately. The Vicars are going to slow down this approach. Some Lyriliscs are available indeed. The Vorvs and the Zeths trying their best to make things happen. Godwheat's scaling up his mid-ranged fighters with the Vicar count being so high, and that is going to be a problem unless the Lyrilisc count can continue to outpace it. And there it is, 8 of them get made. We got a bunch of Nathricors were made as well. Those are clearly going to turn into Calcs at that number with the tech available to Hippity. His worker count did spike up that one time after he pulled his army back initially, but now he's falling behind pretty heavily, and he hasn't even policed 6 o'clock. The fact that this is so advanced, without any sort of counter or scouting, is definitely an area Hippity can improve upon. You know, he wants to make sure that he's watching those bases. He's Zerg, you know, he's got the cheapest units possible. He can definitely make that happen. So the Nats fly over and reveal it. He'll get there eventually, and in a way, it can sometimes be even better to, you know, catch it later. But still, this is something that now Godwheat has a stronger army, and the Nathricors had to commit away from the fight. This looks like a crushing defeat for the Escozy, though the Vicars are going to have to get the hell out of Dodge. We've got plenty grandstands coming. And that tells me that, yeah, there's going to be some desperation here indeed. Still, the Zerg army has been sort of reduced in power. And the Dyad's getting killed. Oh, that's a little bit unfortunate for Godwheat. I don't actually know if he's going to be able to evacuate from this position. He might lose his natural here. I thought he was going to have more crowd control to handle those Lyras. Turns out the answer is no, and now the landlock being very heavily heckled by the Nats the whole time. We're surplus to requirements. His Aphorists are going to try to deliver him from this position on one base, and then it'll maybe be a little bit of a reset, but honestly, Hippity looking wonderful at this stage of the game. He's crossed his T's and dotted his I's. We talked a little bit about him not taking 6 o'clock directly, but then Godwheat tried to move out and defend that base because it was a bit more advanced, and that was sort of allowing his opponent, in this case Hippity, was allowing his opponent to make a critical error. And that was the issue, right? If Godwheat was more in a defensive formation and didn't allow himself to get surrounded and dove in on, he wouldn't have been evacuating with only his Vicars going back into the natural. He's lost his 6 o'clock, and he's lost his natural. But he is going to get some Aphorists out, and there's not a lot of Calculiscs to try to deal with that. The Aphorists are going to do way, way better than just the Vicars. And a lot of anti-ground. Yeah, the Calculiscs are starting to mutate. He's going to dive for it anyway, and this can still be good, but he's lacking in Zeth and Vorv. It's a lot of mid-range units, which is... I'm a little bit concerned just because I feel like the Aphorists are going to do so much splash damage to that composition, and yeah, a couple of them going down at the end there to a faded booming blast. Remember, the eco was better for Godwheat for some time. Now going for 6 Thomologs to bolster his forward positions. And still no third base yet for Hippity. He's got a lot of money in the bank, so we could see some holes in the mid-range of the game times, right, the mid-game. Yeah, 6 Prosceniums is no joke to try to stabilize at this point, and triple Dyad. I guess he's probably going to go for an abutment here so that he can max out the gas income. He's also retaking his natural because he's been allowed to do so. The calcs are made, but he's not actually pressuring with them or anything. I guess he doesn't want to necessarily reveal them, but of course Godwheat knows the tech of the Zerg. He knows that when there's Lyriliscs out, you know, you're talking about these little warbly guys, well then, yeah, you have tech for this, and you saw the Nats already because they canceled out 6. So Pretty good move there from Hippity in theory. He's making 4 hatches to try to spend down his mineral bank, which I fuck with that, dude. Thumbs up. A lot of radixes coming as well, a pair of them to bolster the production of missionaries and vicars, just to give him a bit more chaff. Thomologs are kind of an interesting unit. When they're deployed, they actually shoot way faster, and they have that second life that some Ascozi units have. He's a little bit caught unawares. The Calculists could just get closed in on, and the vicars will deal a lot of splash damage. The reaction time not really there. Spent way too long to, trying to stabilize it or see if he could fight it. And that is a wrap on that. Now the ground army now moving in response. I would go for a counterattack here. I wouldn't screw with the army directly, man. Gotta give some respect to the Ascozi, but maybe this is how he's gonna find out. Oh, he could have a really nice concave, but look at the terrain, the temple, it's blocking so much. I don't actually know if he can get critical surface area onto this ever-moving Ascozi army. Yeah, he's just gonna mulch everything. Look at that. And that's exactly what I was worried about, man. He actually made it so that it was even less surface area than if he wrapped around here and went for a flank, using the Zethvorv to get right on top of the Vicars for that splash damage to start hurting the Ascozi themselves. And what has he got for military behind that, right? He's got a lot of larvae, so don't get me wrong. He might be able to stabilize. But this could turn into a death push really quickly. I mean, the Natural was allowed to get back up and running. The Tech was allowed to get further forward. Nathacor's to try to get that splash damage, but it's not quite enough, and they all stacked up anyway. More of them where that came from as they're engaging from multiple fronts. An improvement over the last engagement, but at way less power. And I think, oh man, it hurts so bad to watch Hippity get so far up in terms of his tempo and then not quite be able to do what he needs to do. Not spreading versus the Vicars is a big mistake. The Aphoris count down to just 1 on the front line, so another flood of Zethvorv could really help out. But there's a lot of Vicars left, and the Thomologs are just take so long to actually go down. He's going to end up losing 9 o'clock. That's not the end of the world right about now, but he is suiciding all of his army before he can really stabilize, and that could be a huge issue. These deployed Thomologs that are embedded into the ground right now are struggling a little bit to, it's a struggle for Hippity to break that position. Yeah, straight up losing just about everything over here. He's now kind of sharking around with the few flyers he has to see if he can intercept reinforcements or maybe sabotage 6 o'clock, but it's already up. That's a bit of a criminal moment because of how long it takes landlocks to be built by a single pilgrim. Still, this could cause a little bit of flummoxing. Let's see what Godweed's reaction is. He should just send rallies over to defend it. Another engagement here, some Lyralisks within the Quaz Ball, but he never got any Zorius or anything for the front line, and so now he's going to dive forward. Godweed never took his Thomologs off of the control group, so they're on a move order instead of an attack order. We do got to declunk them at some point, and so that can't happen, but same thing happens to like tirades and stuff. It's one of the main limiting factors behind their adoption in the meta. So he's driven him back a little bit there, but he hasn't been able to stop 6 o'clock from getting particularly up and running. Natural worker count at a good amount. He's also well saturated here in the main base. Godweed looking pretty powerful in that respect. And tier 2 is starting for Hippity. So I'm not sure what tech he's going to go for. Everybody keeps telling me that Protaths are really good against Ascozi. Oh, there's the center view. Thanks, BDB. Appreciate that. He said earlier that it's center views for Force 1. Well, you are Force 1 in the replay, so that's why that happens. I don't remember if I answered his question about that, but there you go. Now I answered it through time in a YouTube video, dude. You're special. You special, special man. The Thomologs are an interesting add here. They give a little stability to the Ascozi army that you don't typically have because of that secondary life. And obviously they're going to have quite a bit of power in those constrained fights that take a lot longer than you would like them to for the Zerg player. He just can't break him, man. A rare case where the Ascozi actually have the ability to fight. They're using tier 2 versus tier 1, and it's a lot of more of an investment into tier 2 than we typically see with so many Prosceniums. Matraval Nest coming, 21 pairs of Quaz, but I really don't think it's going to cut it. He's not even going to be able to pop a single unit here with that circuit. And as the Quaz hatch, reinforcements come in, but look at the pulls, and look at the concentrated power Godweed has. A composition Hippity was not prepared for. He was going for the Matraval Nest, but at that point he had lost his third, lost his tempo, and all because he funneled directly into a splash comp. It feels so bad because he was so far ahead up until that point, but this one is under wraps. He's going to make one final stand with his tier 2 units, but I don't think he's got the same comeback potential, having lost his natural, but his opponent on an established third base. His scouts come in to try to do a little bit of distraction, but even with the Convolusks, which are a good attempt, a good opportunity in theory, it's just not enough. No Shroud, no GG on your favor, and that's it. It's called Godwheat taking the game with the Escozy Menace, continuing to remain unopposed. Well, that was a pretty interesting round of play, and you know, I'm happy to say that Hippity Hoppity definitely is learning. He's played a lot of games. This game was played, let me see if I can get the date for you guys. This was just yesterday, but there's a lot of matches that were played, and I really dig it. You know, I really think that's a cool match. Or actually, it was 2 days ago as I'm recording this. So this is going to go live on Tuesday. It was played on Saturday. So the 4th of July, the America Day, was celebrated with some Godwheat victory. That's Canada, dude. That's not allowed. I hope you guys are having a good one with all these Cosmonarchy videos. We got more tomorrow. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss any out. And appreciate those donors who have been pumping up our bar on the right-hand side. Looking for 3 hundo. Let's see if we can make it by the end of Acropolis. GG.